So if you have any questions that come up during the presentation, you can put them in the chat and we will answer them as fast as we can. Please have yourself muted just so it's easy for everyone to hear the presenter. And you may want a pencil to write down some notes. Can we go to the next slide? Or do I do that? Or okay, there we go. All right, so we just took the January 2025 FastBridge assessment. So there is only one left. We take 3 FastBridge assessments a year. There's the first one that was done in August, then the winter one we just did, and there will be one last one in May. Yeah. All right, the purpose of the FastBridge assessment is just the screening is the process of checking every student's performance, kind of like taking their temperature, if you will, at least 3 times a year. In schools, screenings are sometimes known as the universal screening, benchmark, or the universal benchmark screening. These terms all pretty much mean the same thing, and they involve testing all students with brief measures to identify which ones they might need more help on. So this is just an assessment that we do 3 times a year to pretty much see where students are at in their learning in both English language arts and math. All right, so for the kindergarten assessments, they take early reading and early math. For early reading, this assesses them over letter sounds, nonsense words, onset sounds, and word segmenting. And in just a little bit, we're going to kind of actually go into the assessment and talk about what all that means. And then in math, they are assessed over numeral identification, number sequence, and decomposing. And again, we will go over what all of that means. All right, so we're going to start with the early reading report. This is one of the pages in your child's packet that you received today. You can go ahead and locate that for the assessment, or not for these, excuse me, for the presentation.
All right, so yes, like Ms. Crawford said, in your packet, it'll be behind the pink paper, and then there's early math and the blue paper, and then you will come to that early reading report. So I'm going to go through each section of the report. Well, first I'm going to talk about what the test is, and then I'll talk about how to read the report based on basically what I just explained about the test. So the first little subtest that they take is over letter sounds, and this is the way that assessment looks. Someone says, the person administering the test says, I will show you some letters on a page. You will tell me the sound of each letter. If you don't know the sound, that's okay. Just do your best. I'll go first. This is a f sound. Now you try. What is the sound of this letter? And they'll point to the other letter on the page. Hopefully your child would say s. And then they would show them another page full of letters saying, here are more letters for you to read. When I say begin, say the sound of each letter. And your child would just read as quickly as they could, saying the correct letter sounds through the page. And then after 1 minute, they would be stopped. So now we'll move to how to read that, how your child did on that test on their individual page. So you will see it says how many items they got correct out of 20, or how many items they got correct within the minute. So for example, on this page, it says 22 correct per minute, but it'll also say their accuracy. So this is a good indicator of, did they just go really fast, but they didn't get many right? Or were they very accurate, but maybe they just need to work on how quickly they can say these letter sounds. Like I said, this is only a 1-minute test. So in the spring, or in the winter, to be considered low risk, they needed to do 26 letter sounds in a minute. But in the spring, we hope that they become quicker. They are able to recall their letter sounds more automatically, and they would say 41 letter sounds to be considered low risk. Something that we've really been working on about letter sounds is like making sure that they are saying them very accurately. That is one thing you may see on your report is, oh my goodness, my kid knows what sound that letter makes. Um, but something we noticed with a lot of kids is they're adding this little extra sound onto the end. So like instead of saying for the letter C, they might say k or g for the sound for G. So instead of g, they might say g. So we're going to make sure that students are saying the correct sounds as well. That's something we've really been working on in class. If you have any questions about that specifically, though, please ask your child's teacher. All right, but now let's move on to nonsense words. So this test, nonsense words, which are pretty much pretend or made up words. So for this test, we say, I'm going to have you read some pretend words. An example of a pretend word is tup. If you cannot say the word, you can say the sounds in the word. T, p. When you read these words, try to say the whole word. But if you don't know how to say it, you can say the sounds of each letter instead. And then they would get an opportunity to try that and choose, do they want to try to say the whole word together, or do they want to try to say each individual sound? So this is really practicing blending or showing their blending knowledge, which is not just the letters in isolation, but also can they put them together. When we talk about the goals, you'll see how right now they can say the letter sounds, but it really behooves them to um, improve their blending so they can go quicker. So we'll move on to how to read this report. I apologize. Here are more examples of these words because I know this is kind of an odd concept. So words like tup, hoff, gack, hove, ris, and so on. And they just read as quickly as they can. Again, they have a whole page of these nonsense words, and they have to read as many as they can within 1 minute. So on their report, you will see again how accurate they were and how many items they got correct out of how many items they got correct. And so to be considered low risk, they needed to be able to do 6 words in the winter. That's going to double in the spring. So again, this is why it's very important that students um, we love that they know their letter sounds, and that's something we're very proud of as a grade level, but also they need to be able to put those sounds together to make these words. Um, if they do choose to sound out the words, like they say t, p, if they then put it together and say the incorrect word, this is something you might see, like your child might know the individual sounds t, p, and then you're like, okay, so what's the word? And they say something completely different. That is something that like we're really working on, and that would they might do poorly on this test. Something I just saw Miss Crawford put in the chat was, I know some are concerned about speech and if they have issues, or if they're working on pronunciation or they're getting speech services. So that does not affect their score. Miss Crawford just pointed that out. So thank you. We will move on to onset sounds though. All right, so with this one, um, students are given a page like this and kind of in that warm-up practice round, students are told, we will do an activity with word sounds. Look at these pictures. This is a key, bat, dolphin, water. Which one of these words begins with the sound? And then hopefully your child would choose the key and then be asked, which word begins with the b sound? And hopefully again, they choose the bat. Then as it goes on, it slightly changes. So on the next page, you will see that. Okay, so let's try something different now. This time, I'll say the word, and then you give the first sound. So, bat. The first sound in the word bat is B. Then they would ask the child, what is the first sound in the word water? So this is really working on getting kids to listen very carefully to understand or to identify that initial sound in a word. Um, this one is not timed. They have 16 items. Oh, sorry, you can go to the next page, Miss B. They have 16 items, and it will show how many items they got correct out of 16. This is really a skill we started working on right at the beginning of kindergarten. And so the goal is that they get 16 items correct. All right. And now we'll move on to word segmenting. Word segmenting basically just means taking the word apart. So whereas nonsense words, we want them to put the sounds together. With word segmenting, we want them to be able to take the word apart and identify each sound within the word. Um, so this is how this test would go. We will do an activity with word sounds. I'll say a word, and you will tell me the sounds in the word. So if I say bat, you say b, a, t. Now let's try one together, and your student would get an opportunity. If I say dot, you say, and hopefully your child would say d, a, t. So they do not have any papers in front of them to look at. It is purely like what they hear in their ears for this test. So when you're looking at the report, this one is kind of interesting because it does tell you how many correct out of 34. This is because they are given 10 words, but within those 10 words, there are 34 individual sounds. So we count how many sounds they got correct. Also, some of the words have 3 sounds within them. So for example, cat has k, a, t. But the word clock has 4 sounds, k, ul, a, k. So especially as words get longer, we've been working with students, and something that you might see on the report is the 4 sound words are a little more difficult for them right now. So we're working on making sure that even when 2 sounds are together, like the k and the ul, we make sure that we separate those and we identify that those are 2 separate sounds. So right now in the winter, the test they just took, the goal to be low risk was 25 sounds, but in the spring we want that to increase to 30, which means they almost get all of the sounds correct in these words. All right. So as for next steps, this is kind of where the rest of the packet comes into play. So behind the report, you will have several pages. So there's a green page that has different letter sounds on them. And again, something we're really working on is practicing those letter sounds, 1 sound per second. So you can cut these out and just quickly go through them and try to get your child to say them automatically. Um, you can also use these letter cards, these green cards, to build words. You can build real words, you can build pretend words. And just to kind of help out, there is also a word list that is printed in white, and it has half the page on the front and then a full page on the back of just different words that students can work on. Um, I know that might be sound kind of difficult about build words or like get your child to manipulate these letter cards, but there's also a video that myself and another teacher made, and if you scan or that QR code on the white page, or if you type in that YouTube link, you can be able to watch, and we try to explain exactly in more detail how you can help your child use these letter cards at home. Also, there's some yellow staple papers, and these are tricky words. Um, some are tricky and some are decodable. Like some your child should be able to sound out. This is because, as you're about to see on the spring, they're going to take a sight word test as well. Um, so that those yellow cards would also be helpful. So, in this is all very important because what I also want to emphasize is yes, some of these tests continue from winter, what we just took, to spring, which is right before the summer. And so, of course, we want to see growth throughout kindergarten, but also some of these skills are the same skills that are going to happen in first grade, and you're about to see that as well, some of this continuation. So for letter sounds, like I said, 41 sounds correct per minute. That is pretty brisk for some of our kindergartners. Word segmenting, out of the 34 sounds possible, we want them to get 30 correct sounds. Nonsense words, 12 words a minute. And then sight words is the next test. We're going to drop onset sounds and we're going to pick up sight words, which these yellow cards are really helpful for that. This is not an exhaustive list, the yellow cards, but it's really, we really want our students to work on being able to blend and read words. I know that this is somewhat of a misconception that sight words are those words that we just need to memorize them, but also sight words really just mean like words that you can read by sight. So yes, some words are tricky and you need to figure out the tricky parts, but also some words your kids know all the sounds, and as they get quicker, they aren't just memorizing, like they truly understand. For example, in cat, at, they just have been exposed so many times that they can read it. Um, so anyway, these are the spring norms, the goals that we are setting for kids by the end of kindergarten. But if we could go on, Miss B. But like I said, many of these tests continue in first grade. So the winter norms, about halfway through first grade, word segmenting, it's about the same, just a little more accuracy. Nonsense words, 17 words a minute. So again, kids need to get faster and faster, really build their blending abilities, the ability to put words together. And then sight words, this is a kicker. It moves from 13 words a minute to 49 words per minute. Um, so we're really trying to lay a good foundation here in kindergarten so that in first grade, they really have that automaticity, some fluency in their reading skills. All right, so now I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Klein, and she is going to go over that early math report.
So that early math report is the other white paper in your packet. There are 3 parts to it, if you want to take a minute to find it. So the early math report, our slides are going to go in a little bit of a different order than your report has it. Oh, I guess they're not. They moved them. I'm sorry. The first part on your report is the decomposing section, and it'll show you like 5 minus 4, 5 minus 1, 5 minus 3. And then it'll move on to tens. It'll say 10 minus 6, 10 minus 4, different numbers like that. And what that test looks like and sounds like for students is that they are shown a 5 frame like this that has 5 cookies in it. And then the tester will say, there are 5 cookies and I ate 4. How many are left? And the student is to respond with 1. And then they'll do that 2 more times with a 5 frame, and then they'll bump it up to a tens frame. And they'll say, there are 10 apples. I ate 4. How many apples are left? And the student responds with 6. So you can see there's those different examples of what numbers you decompose your 5 with and you decompose your 6 with. It is a lot of language. So we really have to like be listening to that, and they're more story problem based. The story problem like basis of it is to help like jog students' memories and things, as this isn't a number recognition test. It's really just like the ability to decompose the number. So we're not focused on their number identification skills, but their number like value, understanding of like the number and the value that the number has. So in the winter, we want them to be able to do that with 5 numbers. And as you can see, like on this example, they missed the first one. That doesn't mean that they stop testing them if they miss one. Because you could see their accuracy was 38%. So they'll continue going on even if they missed one. In the spring, we want them to be able to do it 7 times. I will just also add that our math curriculum right now, we've pretty much done this week we're assessing the unit for math, and it's pretty much like the last unit that deals explicitly with numbers. We're going to move into shapes and patterns, and then 3D shapes and money and time and like different things. So we're not going to be doing as much with numbers and story problems like this. So we as teachers are going to be bringing these things up in our warm-ups and lessons and things. Number sequence is the next test. This can get a little confusing because you can see those bolded words where it says after, 2 more, 10 more, before. So the different prompts will sound like this. I will begin counting. When I stop, you can continue. 1, 2, 3, and then the student continues 4, 5, 6. Or it might be 5, 6, 7, 8, and the student continues 9, 10, 11, 12. Or it might be backwards, 17, 16, 15, and the student needs to continue backwards. So they're really going for that rote ability to say those numbers. The next one is pretty simple. What number comes after 6? They would say 7. What's 2 more than 6? 8. What's 10 more than 6? 16. What number comes before 6? 5. What's 2 less than 6? 4. 10 less than 14 would be 4. And what's the number between is usually the trickiest one for students, I would say. And then that's the number sequence. You can see it there on the scoring. So they can count 4 to 10, 10 to 15, 21 to 31, and then that backwards 3 to 2, 8 to 10. If it just lists a number like that, that's the question was probably what comes before 10? What comes after 8? It was probably a question like that where the answer would be one number. In the winter, we wanted them to be able to do 8 different kind of sequences. And again, they don't stop after they miss one. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong if they know, but I believe it's after they miss 2 in a row, it might be 3 in a row, that they would stop assessing. The last one is numeral identification. The numbers are not listed in sequence. And so if students don't know their numbers and the first number is 1 and they just keep going on, that's where they often get tripped up. This one is very similar to the letter sound assessment. If you want to move the slide, sorry. And you can see on your student's report what numbers they may have missed. This has the numbers in order, but on their assessment, they would not be in order. So you can see some areas where this student got 14 wrong, but then they got 14 right another time and things like that. In the winter, we want them to be able to do 23 numbers in a minute. So we're working on that like rapid number recall. And then in the spring, 33. So it would look something like this, where they would read across the line 1, 0, 6, 2, 7, 4, 8, 5, 9, 3, and so on. You might notice that your student in that report struggled a lot with teen numbers or anything greater than 20. We have just been working on teen numbers within this unit, so that should already be better for a lot of them. And then you will see in your packet, there's some flashcards, 0 to 31. You can practice flashing those to your student, or you could have them practice putting it in order also. So the spring math assessments for FastBridge are listed here, that decomposing, the number sequence, and the numeral identification. 7 for the decomposing. Number sequence, we want to be able to do it 10 different ways. And numeral identification is 33. And then first grade in the fall, their decomposing is only 3, but their decomposing looks different from ours in that the number is represented differently. There's like dots and grouping, and they really want them to show how it was decomposed. And then the number sequence down a little bit to 9, but they're also given like it's going to be up to 100, I think, not just 30. And then numeral identification, again, down, but we've added 70 numbers because we're going 1 to 100 instead of 1 to 30. So how can you help your child at home? The biggest thing that studies show helps kids at home is when you read a book to your child. We know lives are busy, everything's busy, so we don't want to ask more of your home and your family than you can give. So the biggest thing is just reading a book. We have a free library outside of the school at the playground. Come on a Saturday, play on the playground and grab a book. You can go to the library and check some books. The other thing is going over homework and reading. We send papers home almost every day about what is happening for their phonics, which is their reading and letter sounds and all that stuff. There's lots of different words to practice reading with them. We've read some stories, and there's little snippets of the stories. Lots of different things, activities to practice with your child when you have a minute. Just even having them practice reading some of those words and that blending. We have been working on math packets this year that go home kind of monthly, just to add a little extra practice. The biggest thing with homework is to really let your child do it. That's how you're going to see their ability and how we're going to see their ability. And it's going to ease the stress that you're feeling when they don't know it, because it's their job and it's our job to fill those gaps with you. So don't stress about it. Here's all of our contact information. If you have questions that are specific for your child, you could send your teacher an email. We'll stop here and give you a minute in case you want to write it down. If you're not already on Remind, I would always recommend messaging your teacher on Remind. But here are some emails for the teachers that you have. Again, if you have specific questions for your student, we would encourage you to email your teacher. Our next FastBridge window is in May. So I think as teachers are generally pretty confident that there's going to be growth between January and May. Really, we're working on our accuracy right now, I would say, more than anything, and then we'll bring in that speed later on, and that is what FastBridge is looking for, is speed and accuracy. I know that the flu has been brutal this year. So making sure your child comes to school, that's great, but also making sure your child comes to school healthy is also really important, because it's just wiping out some classes. So coming to school is important, but coming to school healthy is really what is important. Again, specific concerns, talk to your teacher. We have breakfast at school, go to bed early. I would like to do that too. If you have any other questions, you can drop them in the chat. I don't think we're mad if you come off mute at this point, but we're kind of done. If parents, you don't have anything else, you're welcome to leave. Oh, sorry, Mr. Dickerson.
I was gonna say, we will also drop a feedback form in the chat, and then also, Miss B, if you go to that, oh well, it should have been in there. I will drop the feedback form if you don't mind filling it out, just letting us know. It would be very helpful for the next for future FastBridge nights. Here's a QR code that Miss B is putting on the screen. And like I said, I will also drop that in the chat in just a moment. Ah. I see several times in the chat. Yes, if you were worried about your child, if some of these scores, if they are concerning to you, like, please, that is what we are here for. Please reach out to your child's teacher if you feel that they did not perform well on this assessment. Please let us know.
I will also just say that in general, if we will let you know if we are worried about your child.
Look, she's waving.
Hi, Maribel. I see you.
Hey, Miss Crawford.
What's up, girlfriend?
Yeah, so if you would like a meeting with your child's teacher, I would also recommend reaching out to them individually. They again can talk more about the concerns, but also to be frank, like, we have many meetings during the week, during our planning time, just other obligations, and so they can work with you individually to find a time where they could meet and chat some more.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Feel free to drop them in the chat, or you can come off mute. Otherwise, like, please fill out the feedback and you're free to go. Our time is, or our portion is up. So, but we will stay as long as you have questions.
Thank you for joining. We appreciate you logging on to kind of better understand this assessment.
I just have a quick question. My name's Katie. My daughter's Tommy.
Oh, I love it. Okay. I know Tom.
My question is, like, she loves math, by the way. She loves you. My only question is, and I know you're the math person, and I don't know who her reading teacher is. I don't know if it's Miss McDougal or if it's a different person, honestly.
It's Miss McDougal.
Oh, okay, that helps my brain. Okay, so like you may not be able to answer, but like she just really struggles with interest with reading and learning to read. Like we sit and read a book every night, and she is everywhere by the book. And so, like, rather than fighting her, like a lot of her, like her OT people that she had before in the past has said, don't fight her, just read the book. And if she gets interested, she might come sit, but she has never really, like, rarely has she ever come sat and like tried to be interested. And she has no interest in reading. She has no interest in, I mean, she wants to write a story. So that's been kind of how we've been like, I'll like tell her what to write and she'll write the words and we'll write a fake story, like we'll make up a story that she has to write it. So anyway, my question is there anything else that I could engage? Like, we don't know if she's ADHD or not because she was a little too young to be truly assessed for that. But we're suspective. So my question is, somebody who's like that, do you have any tips or tools of how to get her to be more engaged in those types of things? Because she admitted when she did the reading part of the test, she was not interested and she was just trying to get it done. And she was just saying things, I guess, or doing like she was just like, she
Like,
scored
get me
like,
out of here.
yeah, there's the last portion of it. I don't know if it was really what they did last, but she got like one right. And I'm like, did you try it all, baby? Like, because you're smart and you knew you kind of, I know you know these things. So she's just like, I just didn't want to do it. And I'm like, okay. So I don't know, like, where do you not know it or are you just not wanting to do the thing? So anyway, I'm just, other than telling her, hey, try really hard. Like, do you have any tips?
Miss Crawford or Miss Klein? I don't want to like
Yeah.
interject. Or Miss Bays Lavecchio if you would like as well.
So I think for sure, even though it might kind of seem like an uphill battle, still trying to read at night is still a great thing. You know, maybe go to the library, have her pick out some books that interest, you know, that pique her interest. I also think having her practice writing at home is also a wonderful thing. You know, maybe get like a notebook and have her pick a topic and maybe write 2 to 3 sentences about that is a great thing to do, especially if she is interested in that. But if you, again, you know, like we've said, if you have like specific concerns that you think might have her qualify for an IEP or a 504, that's really something to, you know, talk to Miss McDougal about. But, you know, especially just like at home, I think that writing practice would be great. And we do send home that foundational skills homework each night or about every night. And so that is also great practice as well. I don't know, Chris, maybe you want to add to that, but
yeah. Well, I feel like I could like talk all night.
Yeah,
like so I don't want to monopolize everyone else's time, but I do really wonder about, like, as Miss Crawford was saying about does she have like any topics of interest that she might like to choose her own books, or if it's about choice, like, I don't really want to do what you're doing, but as Miss Crawford says, like going to the local library or going to the little library here that we have at the school. I do wonder about like some interest or
Yeah, we've tried. So we went to we actually have 5 library books at the house that she picked
love
out.
it.
And
Yeah.
she won't read. I can't get her to go past 1 page. So like at this point, we're just like maybe doing 1 or 2 pages a night because she's not making it through an entire book.
And just
These
to
are
be
books
clear,
she
like
picked out.
when you say reading, are you talking? Are you wanting? Because I feel like there are 2 things here. One is like her sounding out the words and her being able to read, or are you talking like comprehension, like just engage with the text and like enjoy a story?
Either. I mean, we've
Okay.
tried both because I thought maybe she might be more interested if she was actually attempting to read it, and
Mm-hmm.
she'll try for like maybe one page, but then like if then I'll try to just read to her, and I
Mhm.
might get done with maybe 2 pages before she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Let's do something
Right.
else. And I was like, well, you know, and I'll try to kind of fight with her, but it's also usually like about closer to bedtime, and
Mm-hmm.
she'll just start screaming because she goes
And
on
we don't want
she'll
that.
yeah, she goes from 0 to 60 really fast, and she'll just like then wake up brother because she's like going unhinged because
Mhm.
she doesn't want to. But you know what's interesting is her dad makes up these Princess Tommy stories for her every night, and he does it for her brother too. And it's a story about her as a princess. Um, and it's like an adventure every time, but like he's not reading it from a book, he's just making it up, and she'll listen to
Mhm.
that like all the way to sleep. But if I try to pick a book, no.
Right. Um, have you and like I'm also I made a little note to myself to go home and really think about this. And Miss McDougal is in the classroom right next to me. Um, and also I nerd out on things like this, so my team can attest to that. Like tomorrow, you will get an email or a remind message from Miss McDougal because I'm gonna think of more ideas. So there's that. But also I wonder, uh, have you tried like the audio books where
Yeah, we got one,
okay,
but she kind of hit the button, kind of
okay,
looked at it, and but like it would be like telling her to turn the page, and then she would just be still staring. I'm like
uh-huh,
at the page, like I don't know if she just spaces out and like stops listening. I don't know what happens there,
I
but like
yeah,
know for me at the beginning of the year, with a lot of things that we do, kindergartners don't have the
stamina.
stamina to like
yeah,
stay engaged. And
okay,
so what I would do is I would probably start at ground zero and I would say, okay, tonight we're going to read a page. And we're going to
okay,
read just one page. And then the next night we're going to read one page and just like get her to be there 100% for that one page.
hmm,
And then after she does that for a couple nights, we're going to try 2 pages now. Just like
yeah,
really actively building up her stamina for things like that.
right,
Because as we've said, these assessments aren't very long either. And so I don't
okay,
think that it's worth pulling out your hair for a half an hour to get
Yeah.
your child to say 5 letters correct. Let's
yeah,
spend 2 minutes intentionally
right,
working on one letter.
okay.
Um, and especially
And
where
she
it's
is
just like
making
right
her
close to
first
bedtime.
lesson. So I think sometimes she can't say things well
Hmm.
because she sound it's she's like I don't know, like she's missing those 2 teeth, and so certain sounds she
Mhm.
legitimately
Mhm.
cannot say. It's very interesting, and I
Right.
couldn't pinpoint, but it's usually sh or sc, or like anytime
Hmm.
she has her tongue to the roof of her mouth, and it's usually not there.
All right.
So anyway.
Yes, no, this is all great information, and I like I said, I made a note,
Cool.
and I will talk with Miss McDougal. Like I said, I would expect either like a remind message or an email, maybe a phone call, tomorrow from her, um, to like work on this. Yeah. But does anyone else have
Awesome.
any questions? Of course. If not, um, you are welcome to leave. Like, click the little red button, and we will stay here, for maybe like a minute or so more if there are no questions.
Mhm. Every year, the kids usually pop on and say hi if you want to show your kid
If
on the
if your kids
screen
want to
and
say hi
We
to us,
say yes,
we
yeah.
love that.
big fans. There are the lights.
Let's see.
Yay! Hey,
Yay!
it's Genesis.
Oh, she kept her
Oh,
fancy dress on all day.